something I ran into a lot that I had to learn the hard way is we want to accomplish a goal. We want to accomplish something big. But the problem is we have no idea how to do it. And the problem is a lot of the information we have is wrong. I'll give you an example real quick too. And we'll get into this because I think this is a really interesting topic. I saw a video online and it had a ton of views. It was like something like Michael Phelps, the swimmer. And there's no disrespect to the channel or whoever made it. I don't even know who made it. But I would imagine they're probably pretty popular. And it said something about, Michael Phelps visualizing success. You visualize winning and blah, 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 right? Now, did he do that? He probably did. Was that the key to his victory? No. You know what the key to his victory was? Jumping in because I've read a lot about Michael Phelps over the years. He would jump in the pool at 5 he talked about how he would jump in a cold, dark pool every morning at 5 a.m. for it was like 7 years straight or something, whatever. He went on a streak where he was working out, I think it was 365 days a year he talked about. And so he was jumping in now imagine it, jumping in a cold pool every morning at 5 a.m. and not just swimming, taking a quick swim and taking a quick dip. You're training hard. And he had other things to do. This is before he became, the Michael Phelps. So, he was still doing his other stuff. And the problem that I ran into coming up is I didn't have anyone around me that was achieving anything, as most of us don't. Most of us aren't raised around that. Most of us come from normal beginnings. So what we don't know, and this is something I learned the hard way, and I'll pass it on to you. Something we don't know is that when you see the big achievers, whether it's, big business achievers, athletes, musicians, and you could take out the exception to the rule, the people who, came from extreme wealth, got lucky, people who have extreme talent, like LeBron James, you take him out. Bill Gates, you take him out. Like the extremes I'm talking about. You take those people out. But everyone else, the bulk majority of people who achieve big, they work their effing tails off. And that's the secret, guys. That's the secret. It's to work your effing tail off. And it's not doing 50 things. It's finding one goal and work your tail off. If it takes you a year to do it, 2 years to do it, 6 months to do it, a month to do it, whatever it is, you work your tail off. Like, for example, in 2015, when I first had, my first breakout year, I decided that for my business, I was making 200. I wasn't making 250 phone calls a day. I was, some days I make a lot, some days I make a little, some days I slack off. And I got to the point where I'm like, okay, well, I want to make X amount of dollars. This is the goal I want to achieve. And I thought, okay, I didn't know how to do it, but I knew that I would have to put in a ton of work. And I wouldn't know if it would work or not, okay? And that's the thing. We don't know if it's going to work. But it's more likely to work than not work. I mean, you're more likely to achieve it putting in the work than you wouldn't, obviously. So anyway, for me, it was making 250 calls a day, and it was every single day for a year. And the thing is that, most days you don't feel like doing it. Most days you're burnt, a lot of days you're burnt out, but you got to push through it. And that's the thing. It's like any goal you want to achieve is going to just take an immense amount of effort. And that's what we have to learn, whether it's, we'll wrap it on this. Here's a story I read about Larry Ellison. He's a multi-billionaire. He's like 70 or 80 now. He's from the previous generation. And he runs Oracle Corporation. And I read this in 2007-ish. And this kind of set me on what we're talking about today. This kind of got me looking in this direction. And the story was he was in one of his early marriages, and this is before he became Larry Ellison, the multi-billionaire. He was putting up wallpaper in his bathroom, and when he was about finished, it wasn't even, and the story goes, he ended up tearing it all down, redoing it, right? And he was like a perfectionist. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily the way to go, but it's just saying, like, for him, when he's putting up wallpaper, he's doing it, he's working hard at it. Like, he's busting his tail at it. And that's the same thing for anything, guys. That's what we